First of all, I'd like to express my thanks to the organizers for today's function. Tax India Online. Then I would also like to, I came to this seminar today not because I was a part of whatever budget making was there in direct taxes, but to communicate or to seek if there was any problem with any provision as to by interacting with you. So I take this opportunity. A very good morning to dignitaries on the dais and all the participants. Now, the budget as far as direct taxes goes has to be understood in the context of certain figures. At the time of liberalization, direct taxes in 92-93 formed 20% of gross tax revenues of the government of India. Today, there is a lot of this thing in the public as to whether the taxation system was then equitous, but now we have more equity because direct taxes touches 60% of gross revenues from 68,000 odd crores in the year 2000. We've made a good beginning. The target fixed for us now is 5,33 crores. The share of direct taxes in the GDP has gone up from 3.1 to around 6% now. Meanwhile, what is happening is, because of certain developments internationally, the tax to GDP ratio is still at 10%. If state taxes are taken into account, it becomes 16%. The government would probably like to see, when we move to a middle income country, the share of tax to GDP increase from the present 16% to around 20%. So with this, there are constraints as to the relief that can be given. The philosophy behind direct taxes has been to remove exemptions. So now the finance minister in his speech broadly said that he was trying to align this year's provisions with whatever is in the DTC. So as a result, we see some adjustment on account of MAT. We see the individual slab rate, the threshold limits being increased to 180, in the case of senior citizens to 2,50,000 and 5 lakhs. Apart from that, in the direct tax code, we are moving now to a regime where investments, rather than income, is going to be exempt. So with this, we have provisions of section 35AD, where very core specific activities which are given, there is an urgent need for, as the finance minister said, he is making only changes that are urgent. So he makes a provision for fertilizer units under section 35AD, also for affordable housing. Till now we had sections like 80IV for the middle class. Now what was happening in these provisions was that a lot of people were flipping over properties, taking capital gains exemptions and actually earning too much without houses going to the needy and poor. So the change in 35AD is with reference to very specific schemes. Apart from that, well, innovation is the other important thing. So the weighted deduction of 175% has been increased to 200% for R&D effort through the institutes of technology and so on. So there also there is nothing major. The third big discussion in the finance minister's speech related to black money abroad. With this, there is a provision in the Income Tax Act where a tool of provisions, a tool of steps, a toolbox as he calls it, is being put in place so that any any area, any foreign territory which does not cooperate with sharing information can be declared under notification to be a non-cooperating jurisdiction. From such jurisdictions, the tax treatment is going to be very different. First of all, transfer pricing regulations would be deemed to apply. The second would be the withholding tax in respect of payments would go up. The third is that certain amounts could be disallowed altogether. So these provisions have been there in the other statutes also. This amendment comes as a part of the G20 steps which India is taking with other countries, and therefore it marks a very, in my view, a very important change. With this, he also made one provision which is connected to this in a way, and that is allowing Indian companies, foreign subsidiaries, to get dividend and be taxed at a rate of 15% as against 30%. This provision, of course, there's been some debate over this as to whether this was the right thing. The finance minister's view in this was to actually give incentive for dividends being repatriated back to India rather than being applied abroad. So this broadly have been the direct tax changes, and in these changes I think there has been no controversy except for which I think I must also include in whatever I am discussing or conveying today. This related to the SEZ Act, the provisions of 10A, 10B, where STPs and EOUs were there. The sunset clause had come into operation. In the SEZ Act, this was only to go away next year after the DTC came into force. So, well, many people have said that the government has gone back on its commitment, because it's preponed it by 1 year. Now, here the reasons as to why SEZ incentives were given was for a very different reason. It was to actually, initially, encourage a whole lot of manufacturing activity. So the infrastructure which is required, the inefficiencies that are there in systems like India's, they needed to be overcome, and this was supposed to be an intermediate step. However, since 1981 till now, 30 years have passed. Now, what has happened in between is that the scheme was, it appears to more dealing with policy matters on revenue, that the benefits have been cornered or taken mostly by IT companies. Now with this, what is happening is that except for 2 or 3 centers in India, the SEZ concept is not for manufacturing activity, but for IT companies. So to preserve the tax base, it became very imperative to prepone and remove the exemption, because the units would have migrated to SEZs, and in the case of a service sector, it is not, like a manufacturing unit where you have a lot of plant and machinery and so on. So personnel can be rotated, all that, to sort of restrict cutting of the tax base. This has been preponed. Except for this, there has been no other controversy, because I have many speakers after me. So I would once again thank you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.